Good morning, everybody. It's September 1st. It's the first week of school for a lot of people. A lot of people had their first week of college last week, just like me. Most of the grade schools in the Northeast, grade and high school start in the Northeast start this week. And I want to talk about something stupid I did this week. So, as you all know, if you've been following me since 2020 over on TikTok, in 2020, I was an Uber driver. I had a 2018 Chevy Cruze that I used to drive for Uber during the pandemic's height because that allowed me to make as much money as possible during the times where I wanted to. I could take time off when I wasn't feeling well. And then a whole bunch of stuff happened. Life got in the way that led to that car being repossessed. After it was damaged pretty much beyond repair because the engine stopped working anyway. Uh, and I, this week, on Tuesday actually went down to Hertz and used the Hertz rental car program where they allow you to rent a car to drive it for Uber. And I chose to do that. It ended up costing me $460 plus gas. I made about $300. Now, I could have made more um, because I technically still had the rental until Tuesday, but I chose to return it to get the Monday and Tuesday money back for the insurance as well as the rental rate, that the reduced rental rate or however it'll go. But what I did not like was the fact that it really was not worth it. Now, I'm in New York, outside of New York City. In New York, Uber got sued by the Attorney General recently, probably like a year ago. And essentially, if you are an Uber driver, you make $26.78 per hour guaranteed. If you make more than that, great. If you make less than that at the end of the week on your pay period day, they give you the rest of the money. You just make it up, which is totally good. Uh, and the reason for that is because basically they ruled in New York that you're essentially an employee and not an independent contractor. It's a whole thing. But what that means is it's only active time, not time online, which I understand why, if you could be online and just sitting somewhere. Active time is counted as the time from when you accept a trip to when you drop the person off. So when you're on route to pick up, waiting for the person to be picked up, and then driving them to their location, and then you drop them off. Now, I worked about 13 hours and had another 3 hours of online time where I was waiting for rides spread throughout the days. I didn't make a lot of money this week, considering I had to go to class and I'm an officer in one of the clubs at school, meaning that I pretty much have to be there every time. And I would have been there every time anyway because it's a card game and DTRPG club, and I go and I enjoy those anyway. What I realized was that it is not worth it for someone to do this while they're in school. I thought it actually would be worth it to do it while I was in school because it would allow me to make some money on the way home from school, on the way to school, stuff like that. But the problem problem is it sends you anywhere. Like I picked up in downtown and ended up in Niagara Falls. And then it had me in Niagara Falls for 4 hours yesterday morning. Yesterday was Saturday, which was fine. I didn't have school Saturday. I didn't have school on Saturday, but I needed to be at school by noon to deal with some of the stuff that the club was doing. I got there on time, but $460 works out to, I'm going to do the math right now, work, works out to $65.71 per day. And then if you divide that by 26.78, that means you work about 3 hours a day over the course of 7 days. But obviously, you want time off. And I realized that if I continued to do this, what would happen is I would have no time off. I would have no Saturdays and Sundays off. I would have no Mondays off. And there's 2 Mondays in the semester where we're off. One's tomorrow, one's Indigenous Peoples Day. Um, And by doing that, I was like, no, what's going to happen is I'm going to burn out, I'm going to get tired, and I'm going to end up either having my grades suffer, which I can't have that happen because it's my last semester of undergrad, and I need those grades to be where they've been over the course of the last couple semesters, uh, which is high B's to A's, with one C in there, which The one I got a C in was totally fine because honestly, I didn't think I was even going to pass it. But it wasn't worth it. And the other thing that could happen is I could become very, very tired. And when you're tired, you drive poorly. And by driving poorly, one, it puts me at risk. Two, it puts the other motorists at risk. Three, it puts the passengers at risk. And I'm not willing to do any of those things. I have driven tired in the past simply to get from work to home. And I chose to take surface streets instead of the highway and drive slowly and carefully. Um, it was a 10-minute ride, and it normally take 10 minutes. It took me 15 to 16 that day. And I was like, no, I will never do this again because I kept thinking I was going to crash. And if you crash when you're driving a rental car, it's not fun. If you crash when you're driving your own car, it's not fun either. I did about 31 or 32 trips. A lot of them were like $4 or $5 trips. A couple of them were like $30 trips. It was nice. The other thing Uber does, which I actually really like this, is in New York, they're required to tell you how much money you'll make up front, whether you will be getting a delivery, a package, or a passenger. I chose not to do deliveries. And the reason I chose not to do deliveries is because they're annoying. I could have made a decent amount of money doing deliveries. It's just not my car. I don't want to deal with cleaning up. I don't want to deal with going from a delivery to picking up somebody, all of that. I may, when if I purchase a vehicle in the future, go ahead and do Uber with deliveries and stuff because with the career I'm going into, I won't have to work every day in the summer. There will be things I'll need to do in the summer, and I'll have a car, simply because I'll just have one. But what I may do is 3 or 4 times a week, during the summer, hop on Uber to try to make 50 to $100 to just throw into the savings account or something. I am in a position right now where thankfully I'm able to do things such as YouTube, TikTok. I do a little bit of. I'm going to start doing a little bit of live streaming once in a while. Um, More than likely, the Bills game will be the first thing I live stream this week. Um, but I'm in a position where I can make a little bit of money here and there and all that, and by doing that, it helps. And like I don't need to make too much money, essentially because of being in school with everything. Everything's being kind of taken care of in terms of other things. I have to make about $300. I have to have about $300 a month. But with that being said, I have this month already taken care of. Paid my phone bill, and then the bus company, you just load money onto an app, and that's got 3 months worth on there, so I don't have to worry about that. And by not having to worry about that, it's a wonderful thing, because it means that in December, when school's over the last week of December, the first week of December, essentially. I don't have to worry about the bus until January when I'll have my financial aid refund from grad school. And I'm going to take out a larger loan for grad school than what I would normally need, um, simply because like the extra will help. If I were to purchase a vehicle, because grad school is going to be interesting because most of my classes will be 1 day a week, 3 hours a day, 3 hours per. So, and if I'm doing, I think I'm going to be doing 5 classes in the spring, and by doing that, that's 15 hours a week. But only if I can schedule it great, and I buy a car, I could do some wonderful things. I could do the Uber, I could do the DoorDash, I could do a whole lot of stuff, and it would be a lot better. Now, moving on to why I chose to do this. I chose to do this because I thought it would be a good idea to have access to a motor vehicle that I would use to make money. The vehicle essentially was only used to go to and from school once, a couple times, because I had to park, other than driving it for Uber. I had to park, go to school, and then, yeah. But I always did the destination filter get me towards school or towards the house, which was useful. But $460 is a lot of money when you need to make $65 a day over the course of 7 days to make it up, which is which isn't terrible. Now, if I worked an 8-hour day, 5 days a week, that's 40 hours. I would make about 1,000. If I could do that for 4 or 5 weeks, 5 grand, it would have been really nice. I should have done it over the summer, but I had too much going on over the summer. What I may do is do this again during January, depending on how things go with my finances. Do this again during December and January when I have a 5, 6 week break and just start busting things out. But at this point, I really don't know. The other thing, the other reason I did this was because I'd been thinking about it for a while. Because I did genuinely enjoy driving for Uber during 2020. Uh, I genuinely enjoyed it, but I wanted to know if it would be worth it. And what I've determined is that it is not worth it unless you can dedicate 40 hours a week. If you can dedicate 40 to 50 hours a week to it for a couple weeks, it is worth it. And that, I think, is something that other people should be aware of if they're thinking about this. So, yeah, keep that in mind when you're doing that, when you're thinking about that. I am going to do some more talking about just the general weirdness of Uber. I had some very interesting stuff, but that'll be a separate video, as right now I am actually about to play some games on chess.com. I'm not even rated 400 yet, and that makes me sad.